Good morning, friends. I'm Ben Hayes, pastor of First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this Thursday morning, November the 12th. And I hope that you are having a great day so far. I hope that you have been blessed as you got up this morning and just enjoy some time praising the Lord and spending some time in His Word. But today, as we continue our journey through the book of Proverbs, I want to go back to Proverbs 21, in fact, and just go down to the next two verses. Yesterday we dealt with verse 1. Today I want to deal with verses 2 and 3 because these are very important verses in the life of believers, and they could be a message to those who are unbelievers as well. And I think it's important that we understand the principles behind these verses that King Solomon gives us. And so he says in verse 2, every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the hearts. To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. You know, I think Solomon probably had experience going to the temple day after day after day in Jerusalem and watching people. Maybe even in his own life, he saw this to be a truth that he had to deal with. But when you are outside of the will of God, when you are not living in commitment to who He is and what He has for you, then exactly what He says takes place. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes. Those who don't understand the truth of God's Word and aren't living in a relationship with God has this idea that everything we do is okay. It's kind of like the situational ethics that we were taught back in the 1960s and has continued to progress throughout this generation until we've gotten to the point where we are today, where it doesn't matter what you do, if it feels good, do it, kind of thing. And this is what Solomon is talking about here. We've got this idea that as human beings, we can do anything we want to. Hey, if we want to ignore the fact that God created us male and female and be, as I read yesterday, binary in our gender, and not accept the fact that men and women are created as men and women, then hey, it's fine because we're living in the 21st century. But the truth of the matter is, God weighs the hearts. God is the one who determines what's right and what's wrong. Just because we think it doesn't make it so. I mean, it's one of those things that we have to understand. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and reality is reality. And we, as the earlier we learn that in our lives, the happier we're going to be, because God does weigh the hearts of every man. But then the second part of this is probably the thing that weighed heaviest on King Solomon, because he said to do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. See, the Jewish people were a lot like people today who think, well, you know, it's easier to get forgiveness than to get permission. And a lot of times we take that into our spiritual lives as well. We do something, hey, it's okay. We can ask God for forgiveness and He'll forgive us. Back in the days of Solomon, what they did is they would just take an extra sacrifice. And what they thought was that the sacrifice is what fixed everything. That as long as some blood was shed by an animal, then everything was okay. But they never quite understood that the sacrifice was just a symbol of what was going on in the hearts of men. The psalmist says, who shall ascend the hill of the Lord but he that hath clean hands and a pure heart? Nothing to do with sacrifices. If we want to enter to the presence of God, it's not about the blood of bulls and goats. It's about a right relationship with Him. Now, we enter that relationship through Jesus Christ by trusting in Him as believers. But in the Old Testament, it was a symbol of what took place in their hearts when they offered that sacrifice. They were to recognize the fact that it was because of God doing a work within them. That's what happens when we trust in Jesus. God does a work within us. He changes our attitudes. He changes our actions. He changes our vocabulary. And that's one of the most important things that we can understand, is that salvation is all about change. It's all about transformation. And that's why he says to do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. He's not talking about doing works in order to earn our salvation. He's talking about the fact that when we truly are right with God, we're going to do good works. That's what James said in the New Testament, that faith without works is dead. He said, show me your faith without your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. That's what it's all about, is saving faith is a faith that works, that serves God, that does right things. And so we need to understand that God's way is the one that's right, not our way. God's heart is the one that's right, not our hearts. Our hearts deceive us, but God will show us the way that we should go. So today, as you travel through this journey called life, make sure you focus on what He would have you to do. Not because it earns His favor, but because you want to please Him, because you want to serve Him, because you want to obey Him. And that comes from that right relationship with Him through faith in Jesus Christ. So I hope that you have a great day today. I hope that you will focus on Him today and be blessed.